When somebody says that's just the way I am, that's crap.
What is going on, L&M family? I got another one here. Somebody that I've been following. Actually, when I started following him, I thought he was like a theater major because there were different personalities of him showing up on the LinkedIn. And of course, all valuable stuff. And so I got further into Mr. Wally. And just so y'all know, his gig, the work that he does, or maybe more appropriately, the contribution he's making to our industry and this world is transforming leaders. He helps companies retain talent, which we're going to dig into today, and also like deliver profits. So if anybody knows anything about profits or cares about profits, this isn't just touchy-feely, let's train everybody and get along. It's always about business results. He's a speaker, he's a coach, he's a consultant, and a whole lot more. We're going to get to learn all about that, Mr. Wally Adamchick. And before that, and if this is your first time here, you're listening to the Learnings and Missteps podcast, where amazing human beings just like you tell us about how they share their gifts and talents to leave this world better than they found it. I am Jesse, your selfish servant, and we're about to get to know Mr. Wally. Mr. Wally, how are you doing, sir?
Well, I'm good. I don't know if I'm as selfish as you are, but we're here for the same reason, is that well, we want to help people out. So yeah, it's all about me to help you.
That's it, man. That's it. I get accused of being so altruistic. Like, man, Jess, you just give so much. I'm like, yeah, but it's not like I just give. I give because it's what keeps me alive. It's what keeps me sober. It's what keeps me sane. Provided I'm contributing, things are great. When I'm just on the take, things are not great. I am not healthy. And that's just a waste. And I mean, I know because I've lived it for way too long.
Well, there's a deep message there about service and servant mentality, not, not rolling over and all of those things. But when we look at the neuroscience of this, when we're giving and not stupid, I'm selling all my worldly possessions, but I have something I can give. I got a little bit of knowledge, and maybe I deliver it in a way similar to you with Depth Builder. Maybe we deliver it in a way where people hear it. There's a lot of noise out there, but hopefully we're delivering something that's got some value for folks. And, yeah, that's why I wake up in the morning.
Yes, sir. Okay. So you said servant mentality, and I think we need to go a little deeper there because, I worked for a company. I worked for TD Industries for over 17 years, and the culture. Now they had like an intentional culture this back in the early 2000s, right? Before everybody was talking about culture. I'm sure
Yes.
that.
They like started it in construction almost.
And so now their culture was one of servant leadership.
Mhm.
And I struggled early because I thought it meant like be nice and, just be a sweetheart, a big fluffy pillow. And it took me a little while to like, wait a minute, it's not just be nice, it's really be respectful. It's not just be pleasant and accommodating, it's set expectations and support people to get there. And if they can't get there, then there's other measures to be taken. So in your work, when you think of this servant mentality, how often do you see people maybe overshoot into the soft, tolerating mediocrity side, maybe confusing what service actually means?
Yeah, it's probably a bell curve, right? Where that's, the standard distribution and whatever chunk you want to take of it. But I'd say easily 10 to 15% of the folks, the minute they hear it, they hear nice.
Yep.
And then there's another 10, 15% that hear like get run over. And somewhere in the middle is the goodness. And look, there's nothing wrong with being nice. There's nothing wrong with holding the door open for somebody when you see him at the mini mart. Yes. And we should do those things at work too. But this is, how do I help you grow? How do I help you get through the door? And that's where tough love may come in too, by the way. With accountability. Hey, dude, we've had this conversation 3 times. You're going to have to go home today and think about this. and so, yeah, when we hear servant, it could go back to some youth, some baggage, some mama's house issues, etcetera. But, what we're really talking about is an intentional collaboration to help you get better. One of my favorite quotes is, "The answer is yes. Now, what was the question?"
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, let's figure out how we can do this.
Yeah. Now, okay, so you mentioned tough love. Have you seen a change in the response or the willingness to receive tough love over your time in the work that you've done and the different roles that you serve? Because you've done a lot.
I want to say yes, but let me back up a little bit and talk about the construction industry as I see it. Now, I think this is no science to this whatsoever, but you'll get it, and the listeners will get it. I would say, 2/3 of the companies across this construction universe never want guys like you and me to show up because they're doing fine.
Yes.
They're making money, they're keeping the lights on, and they're in the insanity or the ignorance, and it's fine. There's the TDs and folks like that who, so what if I go with my 2/3 to 3/4, 20 to 30% of the industry is either exemplary, like they set the standard and they want to stay there, or they're aspirational and they want to get there. I dare say, I don't think I've ever changed the culture. I've helped people maintain the culture because a consultant is not going to come in and change your world. We're going to help you change the world.
Yes. And I'm saying again, yes.
Yeah.
It's one of my, it took me a while, but like that first year, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I still kind of don't, but I'm getting better at it. Anyways, the folks that reached out that were expecting a cultural transformation from a 1 day pep rally training session, I said, sure, let's do it.
Hell yeah. So did I.
And then guess what? Like, it
Mhm.
didn't happen. They were pissed off at me. They were disappointed. And so I had to change the way I was looking and responding to things. Like what you want, I maybe it can be done with the 1 day pep rally. I don't know how to do the thing that you want with the 1 day pep rally. So here is what I'm recommending. And or maybe you just need to find somebody that knows how to do it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, learning to say no, man, I said no to some stupid stuff. I mean, one of my favorites was time management on a Saturday. Like, yeah, yeah. So, hey, time management, nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be there on Saturday. And, yeah, but look, anytime someone's starting a business and whether you just bought a backhoe, you say yes to almost anything because of fear, no revenue, right?
Yeah.
So, fortunately, I've learned what to say yes to, and I've had clarity on what I don't do. And you still see this, people broadly in our space, they do this and this and
Yes.
this and this. I'm like, you can't do marketing and IT and culture and but that's that buyer beware, I guess. And that's just part of the real world.
Yeah. Well, and actually, great point. You've been in your business for way longer than I have. Like, how long does it take, or did you start off kind of poking around to figure out, okay, that don't really work. That's not really what I like, to get super clear about what to like be the primary message? Or did you know that right out of the gate?
No, I don't think I knew it right out of the gate. Again, yeah, teaching time management and customer service and all of those things. I mean, I'm good in front of an audience, and I certainly have experience in those things, and I've been trained in some of those things depending on where I was in my life, but that wasn't my expertise.
Ah,
And it took me a while to acknowledge my experience and my expertise and then dive into it. And, there's a part of me, and I see my buddies in the speaking world do this, and they're out making, 50 grand an hour for giving their keynote. And I'm like, God, wouldn't that be great? Yeah, it would be, but that's not really who I am. I mean, I get
mm,
in there and hook and jab with you. I'm on a job site at 6 a.m. God help me, I hate that, but, we start early in this industry. I'm a night person. But, right, to get out there and go, "Hey, how's it going? What's going on?"
yeah.
And I've spent more time on job sites in the last year probably than in the last couple of years, COVID, etcetera, because I wanted to get back in touch with what's going on out there,
Mm,
right? You and I lecture and we coach, and look, it's based on a lot of good stuff, but get back out in the dirt, talk
yes.
to the crews, talk to the leaders, And when they say, "Hey, I saw your video," or "I loved what you did last week," or, "Here's why it worked for me," it's like, ding, yeah, that stuff is still working because the environment is changing.
Yep.
And I'll go back to this servant thing we started with earlier. We never said lower the standard, right?
Thank
The sta
yes.
the standard is still the standard. It's just that 20-year-old who just showed up on your job site, he's not gonna put up with the trash that you put up with. So or she's not gonna put up with the trash you put up
10-4.
with, right? So staying in touch requires, in my mind, expertise. So yeah, those keynoters are wonderful and they perform a role, and I kind of envy them for the money they make. But
Yeah.
when the wife comes up to you at the Christmas party and looks at you and says, "Are you Wally?" And you're like,
Mm,
"Yeah." And she throws her arms around you and says, "I don't know what you did to him, but he's different."
yes. Yes. That's amazing because there was a time when the wife came up to me at the Christmas party and said, "You're the SOB that keeps my man away from my kids and me on the weekends and holidays." And
Mm,
I was that guy, right? When I was out
yeah,
running work.
we got a job to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, dude, I got too many stories there. It's interesting because in my head, when I'm having those types of conversations, right, about family and self-care and these sorts of things, I believe it 100% and I'm working like hell to practice it, to be a practitioner of it, not just a freaking
mm,
mouth noiser about it. But I also know how I would naturally react if I was in their situation. It would be
right.
easy. We got
Yeah,
work to do. Let me
yeah,
go do the work. But it's an unsustainable model. So comparing that to having, a family member come up and say, "Hey man, thank you because whatever you're doing, it's
yeah.
changed our relationship entirely." That is the beautiful thing. So now, you mentioned keynote speakers making 50K per engagement, which is I'm with you. Like, damn it, man,
Sign me
that's
up.
awesome. Now, in your on your profile, you list the word coach and consultant, and you talked about how us as consultants can go into a business, but we're not going to transform and sustain your culture. Is there a difference between coaching and consulting and that sort of thing? Do you use it in it? How do you think about the coach consultant idea?
There's a lot of confusion out there, and what I'll tell you is my opinion, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, to me, coaching is more one-on-one, helping you get better at something. Now, the problem with the word coach is we automatically take it to the sports world,
Yeah.
and that's a little bit different. And I guess we could be doing group coaching as well, but to me, consulting is organizational. Like, okay, you want to create a program, you want to develop your leaders. Here's a way to do that. Just the way any other consultant would. We have some level of expertise. You could have that expertise in the house, but it's expensive to have it there. You don't need it, at
Yes.
365. So yeah, you bring a consultant in. They charge you a little bit more than what an hourly rate would be, but they have that, and it's organizational. The
Yeah.
coaching is more than one-on-one. And then, is training a separate word? And it probably is,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
that's where we're standing in front of 10, 20 people, 25, and delivering content. Now, this is where, and you started earlier talking about profit and making money. It all has to make sense and it all has to have a return on investment. So whether it's training, coaching, consulting, whatever, if it doesn't work, you should fire the person.
Yes.
But that's an admission of something going wrong. But ultimately, when we're talking organizational change and individual change, it requires all of these things probably, right?
Yeah.
We have to have an organizational view of what do we want to accomplish. We have to give skills to a population of say frontline leaders who are trying to
Yep.
learn leadership, and then there may or may not be some specific one-on-one coaching in there to say, hey, you're the general superintendent, you're kind of the linchpin on this, let's spend some time together. So it really is a design build approach.
Yes.
When we put something together, you have to understand context, right? National, local, regional,
Oh, yeah.
self-perform, not so, like all of these things are relevant. to get maximum ROI. And it's why when we go back to the conversation about expertise earlier, like we have to understand that playing field, so to speak. It's like we don't bring high school solutions into Division One, right? Plistic, they don't work. And it's why you would never hear you or me say cement mixer. They don't exist, right? It's a ready mix truck. But we've all seen that speaker come in and try to make that connection. And it's like, yeah, no. And ultimately, it's not that they're looking uninformed. It's that it's disrespectful to the audience,
Yes.
to these tradespeople and builders who they just want life to be a little bit better, but don't want, isn't that what we all want?
We're going to do the L&M family member shout out. This one goes out to longtime supporter, Miss Kirby Coates. She says, there are not enough words to share about the Depth Builder experience. Jesse built programs based on real people and real experiences to better people in real life. He has a true passion to help all people, and it shows through every program he has created. Jump in and grow. So Kirby, thank you, super thank you for leaving that very thoughtful review on the Google. I'm fancy now. I got a Google page where I can get reviews. So y'all already know, folks, I love attention. And so anytime you go above and beyond to leave me a comment on the socials or leave a review, it gives me an excuse to celebrate you in the future. So please do so, even if they're stinky. I like the stinky ones too. They're super helpful. Yes. Oh man. So amen. I love that you threw training in there because, when I'm talking to people, it's like, well, what do you do? I was like, well, this is what I do. Like, well, what does that mean? I was like, okay, let me say it a different way. I consultant, coach, and trainer. And they're like all three? I'm like,
It depends on the day.
depends on the day, right? It depends on the ask. Like, I like the way you said design build, because for some firms, they've got a pretty big operation going on and they've got multiple layers and it's design build. Like, okay, here, what do you want to achieve? What's the intended outcome? Right. Here's my recommendation for this level of the organization, this level of the organization, and out there in the field. And there's a mix of coaching, consulting, and training throughout the thing. Now, I think the other important part that you've mentioned, and I want to clarify this, at least from Jesse land, right? In my perspective, the idea of expertise, because, and I need you to correct us or correct me if I'm wrong, or if there's anything missing, because for the L&M family member out there that's listening, I know a lot, and I used to be this way. I was stuck in well, I can't, I've never done that before. I don't have the expertise. I don't have the experience. And so it was this block in front of me that I allowed to keep me from spanning my wings, right? And so in terms of training, facilitation, and all of that, what I learned, because I did it wrong early on, is I've done presentations a long time ago on things that I had no experience with. It was a concept or an idea that sounded cool and great. And so I did a training on it. But don't ask me no questions because my answer was, you got to look it up. You got to read this book. I couldn't give any practical firsthand experience of me having done it.
Well, we call that a book report.
Well, there you go. I love that. I was doing book reports. And when I did that, I had zero expertise on the matter. And it was not fun. It was uncomfortable for me. And I know the people in the room were like, what the hell was this? Right? This was, and now with YouTube, you could just watch it on YouTube now. Anyways, so fast forward to the question of expertise. The simplest way I can make sense of that for me and maybe for other people is expertise is me talking, helping, sharing something that I have wrestled with to some degree, that I have an insight and understanding about, which is not that I notice. I didn't say number of years, number of certifications. I said firsthand experience in wrestling, getting dirty and messy with it, and coming to some kind of understanding or insight that I can share. How does that land with you, Wally?
It lands really good. Let me give you my take on it. Expertise is you can see options in doing the thing while you're doing the thing. So a teenager is driving. How far out is their scan? It's the radio, right? And all of a sudden they see brake lights in front of them and they mash on
Hey.
the brake,
Yep.
right? We're driving and we're seeing as far out in the front as we can. We're doing the thing. We're driving, but we see some brake lights quarter mile out and we're like, brake lights. Oh, brake lights are there. Oh, maybe I should move my foot off the gas. I don't have to do like the options are going,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Options in doing the thing while I'm doing the thing. All right, I'm starting to touch the brakes. Now I'm looking for my bailouts because this might not work. Looking for options. So it, I walk out to a job site. I see things. I don't see the things that the superintendent sees because they see options in doing the thing. They have expertise. So here's what I say from a coaching perspective when it comes back to our world. If your coach can't give you 5 ways to solve your problem, they may not be an expert.
Yes.
If they say, oh, what you need to do is, oh, no, that's somebody giving you orders.
Right.
Expertise says, well, you could do this. I don't know if it's a really good idea, but you could do it. You could do this. You could do this. You could do this. And here's the problem with expertise is you think you know the answer, and then you become less of a listener.
Yeah.
And that is the risk for leaders because they have been there, they have done that, they have seen it fail or work. And then when the 22-year-old comes on the job site, they're like, yeah, that was stupid. Shut up and dig. And then the kid never says another word. So
Yes.
long answer, long answer. Expertise is you can see options in doing the thing while you're doing the thing.
Yeah. And I think the connection is it comes from having done the damn thing. Like if you've never done it, you won't know.
Yeah, or, if you spend enough time around it, though, that substitutes. Like, I
Ah,
don't have to get bloody to understand a bandage is required when someone is bleeding, right? I mean,
sure, sure.
right? So, one of my favorite ones is the restaurant industry. Like, they teach you how to handle a robbery. That's something you never really want to be an expert in, right?
Right, right.
But yes, I mean, and so now, are we just talking a practitioner or an expert?
Yeah.
Somebody who has been doing it for a long time truly may not be expert. They just may be repeating the
The
same
same play.
tired
Yep.
play, and it says, well, I have 20 years of experience. No, you have 1 year, 20 times.
Yes.
And welcome to 2025, welcome to 2026 means and methods are changing, demographics are changing, technology is changing. You cannot walk in and automatically apply the solution that worked last year, last month, whatever, last
Right.
decade. It may be the right solution, but it has to be more thoughtful now than it has been.
Yeah. Yeah. Take into account the new conditions. Right. Like
Yes,
sure, that play worked under those conditions.
exactly.
What are the conditions we're in now? The people, all of the things. And I am guilty of, I know the answer, release the Kraken. And it did not work. Now, you play a lot in the leadership space, in the construction leadership space. Why did you pick construction leadership?
Yeah, I'm an idiot. You know, what can I say? Dusty, dirty, male, in your face. My brother and dad were construction guys in New York City when I grew up.
Nice.
So when I was 13, 14, I was a helper on union jobs in New York City. And we all know what a helper means, doing all that crap stuff all the way up into college. And so the real answer is this is in my blood. No, I'm not a builder, right? I can't hop on a machine on 10 different machines and make it sing. But the fundamental respect and understanding of what these crafts people, what these construction folks do day in, day out. It's in my blood. And when I'm standing across from a foreman on a job site, it's as if I'm hanging out with my brother.
Ah,
Uh, you know, a little banter, maybe, a little BS, a little bravado, respect,
yeah.
but respect. And they look, people feel that. They don't feel Wally with an MBA and a CSP and a CMC and all that stuff. They don't feel that. They don't care about that. They
Yep.
want to care that my solutions work for them, and that I understand them. So why construction? I don't know. Maybe God put me here.
Yeah.
Um, but this is where I am, and it's where I'm. And early on, right, I was like, oh, I'm going to be all things to all people, right? Back when we were teaching time management on Saturdays. And
Yeah.
it's like something, just embrace who you are and recognize, yes, there are other places you could be doing things, but this is who I am. And something that works pretty damn well.
Yeah, man. Yeah. 10-4. I mean, everybody knows my story. It came up through the trades. And so it's
Yeah.
like, this is where I need to go. I know recently I don't know how obvious it is, but I'm working on that. I made a little shift to really speak to subcontractors, right? Foremen, superintendents, like the people that work for the subcontract, because that's where my expertise is. I
Mhm.
spent over 20 years like doing the thing at various levels on the subcontractor side, but I just wasn't doing a very good job at speaking to them saying, hey, I want to help you,
Right.
which is not bad, but it's there was some period of time where I'm like, okay, I could do this for everybody, which didn't help, right? I was just kind of standing on the
Yeah.
corner screaming it to nowhere. And then I said, okay, no, construction. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm going to scope in a little tighter specifically for subcontractors because there aren't a lot of people serving subcontractors, A, and B, there are even fewer with my, we'll say, resume or
Mhm.
pedigree, right? Coming up as an installer, foreman, work for general contractors, works for owners, and having that kind of broader view or understanding of how, like, the commingling or the dance that is construction. So when you're out there, I mean, we talked about this a little while ago, right? There's the super high performing outfits out there that
Mhm.
want to just stay on the front edge and kick butt. There's the majority, I'm going to say majority, that are like,
Mhm.
hey, it's fine, leave us alone, we ain't got time for you. And then there's the other ones that the sky is falling down, they need an intervention. And so, in terms of the folks that you serve, right, the organizations that you serve, what's the ratio between wanting to stay on the front edge and, oh my God, we need a freaking transfusion?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say 80% are on the good side.
Oh, nice.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm really lucky. The ones that need a transfusion, they're usually so small that they're in that crisis mode.
Hmm.
Owner trying to figure it out, whatever. And I just don't spend a lot of time there. You're a larger firm, so you get over a couple 100 million in this subcontractor world. They're established and their crises look different.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So they're not in that super catastrophic mode usually because there's enough decent people around them to do the intervention or help with the intervention.
Yes.
Now, there are individuals within those organizations that get promoted to take your chief estimator or, you're not going to be the VP of ops unless, dot. So that's where coaching, one-on-one coaching for 6 months to a year would come in. And we say, hey, can we do behavioral change here? The answer is yes in most cases, by the way. Like coaching does work if you choose to work. And you and I are both from a program where we learned how to do the work and you can transform your life and get sober and all of those things. So, when somebody says that's just the way I am, that's crap. That's
Yes.
how you choose to be. Now, we're talking neuroscience that may have been established when you're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and you're significantly baked by the age of 15. Like your neural pathways, as
Yeah.
much as we have neuroplasticity, some of it you're just not going to change. But there's a piece that you can. And, that's when the wife comes up to you at the Christmas party. So we know it's possible.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I get the question of what's the best scenario for change to stick? Is it like preemptive, get on the front end and teach and coach and like let all the flowers bloom? Or is it when the shits hit the fan? And I'm like, philosophically, it's preemptive, right? Get when did Noah build the ark? Before the floods. But
Yeah.
in practice, it's when the shit's hitting the fan.
Yeah. It ain't working anymore. We need to do something different.
Yes.
You're right about both of those.
Yeah. And it's exactly that, right? The pain, I'm not sure whose quote it is, but like the pain of doing the same has
Hmm.
exceeded the pain of change. So now people are more receptive to doing it differently. Whereas on the front end, doing it on the front end, which I'm a huge proponent of, it just takes longer for it to like really stick
Well,
than, the reactive approach.
what's the phrase? You got sick and tired of being sick and tired? So yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right. So we mentioned at the beginning that you help these companies deliver profits. And we've talked a little bit about consulting and coaching and training. So, what's the connection between the types of services that you and I provide, attraction and even retention of talent, and
Yeah.
profits?
Yeah, so it's a math problem that if culture is better, so I'll broadly say that because leaders are not jerks and those kinds of things. If
Right.
culture is better, people choose to stay because we all know the line that people don't leave companies, they leave bosses,
Yeah.
right? So if I've got a great company and I've got a great boss, people choose to stay. What does that mean? Well, that means turnover went down. How much? Probably about 20%.
Ooh,
If you compare, expert with good, and then probably another 15% if you go to like you suck. But so there's a measurable decrease in turnover, which we know increases safety, increases productivity, and those two things then increase profitability.
yeah.
Now, I'll give you another way of looking at it from a guy who implemented all these things and created an incredible training center, et cetera. Many time great place to work since he started the initiative. They're growing like crazy in a good market in the Southeast. He says, you know something, Wally? I don't know what the ROI is. I just know my life is a hell of a lot easier.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to be rude, Wally. I get in these, not all the time. And it's usually a red flag of like, oh,
Hmm.
we may or may not have a long-term relationship here.
Right,
Is,
right.
well, what's the data? What's the ROI? What's the ROI? And I'm like, okay, I appreciate your question. And in my head, what I'm thinking is, what was the data analysis you did on getting married? What was the data analysis you did on deciding to have children?
Hmm.
Like, I understand where you're
Because if you did that analysis, you wouldn't have had children.
right. Like, what's the ROI on that? Oh, you're going to be negative at least $1 million per child, like over the
Hmm.
lifetime.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, for real? This is what we're going to talk about. But I understand it, and I'm with you, right? There is a connection, there is a line between, I mean, hell, man, I'm sure you've heard this many times. It seems like every training I do or whatever, consulting, whatever I'm doing, there's folks in the room, 15, 20, 30-year veterans in the industry that will say, man, I've been around since, whatever. And this is the first time I
Yeah.
ever got any training. You get that?
All the time. That crew lead is the most underserved and on the face of the earth. And one day somebody gave him some keys and a tool and a clipboard, now keys and an iPad, and said, "You're in charge."
Yep.
And God bless them, they pull it off. But
Oh, God. Yeah.
we'll transition into we got a mental health issue.
Oh,
And part of it
yes.
is because we bury these guys.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that was what that experience is what motivated me early in my career when I was superintendent at the time. Well, it
Yeah.
was also money, right? Because the company I worked with was an employee-owned organization, and we got bonuses by the project. Anyways, when I got to superintendent level, I just assumed all the other foremen that kind of did the same thing, and
Mhm.
they did not. And like the experience was, I was pretty good at installing. I got promoted. I sucked. They told me I sucked for a year. I figured out I got better. Then I got promoted again. They told me I sucked
You
for a year.
sucked.
Right.
Yeah.
And now I'm a workaholic. So I love the challenge and I'm super competitive. And so I put in a ton of time, not just like doing the job wrong, but learning how to do it, like for real, learning how to read the estimates and how to make labor projections based on what the estimate is and our production rates are. And then I'm like, why aren't we teaching our guys this? We're just now, don't get me wrong. Like it was TD Industries. They have a phenomenal leadership development program, which gave me a lot of tools on like how to like deal with people and maybe manage myself a little bit more. But they did nothing. They had nothing that helped me be a better foreman. that help
Yeah.
me be a better superintendent, like to do it within the context of that organization.
Yeah.
And so that's where the train for me, I'm like, I'm going to teach my guys
Yeah.
how do you plan? What are the key characteristics of an actionable plan? How do you measure the performance of the plan? How do you learn from that? And how I was doing it, one, to help them, but also because I was, I wanted my bonus. And if they did a better job planning, I got a bigger bonus or we got bigger bonuses. And so what I could also see as an employee owner of the company was, man, there was that foreman and the superintendent leap where people either made it and they were like it was
Mhm.
extremely taxing for that person.
Yeah.
And it was very expensive for us because there was a lot of mistakes and right, like
Yeah.
super, super
Yeah.
expensive. And the same thing at the superintendent level. And so when we started doing the training, I was doing it at the bar with my buddies, right? Like, hey man, I'll show you how
Right.
I read the estimate and the budget and whatever. And then eventually I became responsible for doing the thing. We saw a dramatic impact, like dramatic impact
Yeah.
now in terms of operating income. Huge. It was amazing. But we also, which I wasn't paying attention to back then, saw major impact in like the quality of life our foremen and superintendents were experiencing, which was
Mhm.
something I did not pay attention to back then.
Yeah.
Now I do. And so in terms of like quality of life for the frontline leaders, is that your primary focus, like that audience?
So, no, this isn't about quality of life. This is
Okay.
about a construction company making money. However, when I stand in front of dudes, I'll say, "Hey, here's what the deal is. If you do some of this stuff, you'll have more smiley faces and more dollar signs on the job site." So, it is about quality of life. And I don't I you know, in this oh, by the way, we never said lower the standard, right? Let's go back to that conversation, right? These are not mutually exclusive concepts.
I
You
love it.
can you can have great culture, you can make a ton of money. Oh, but Wally, this is construction. You don't understand. No, I do understand. Like it rained Tuesday through Thursday. We're paving on Saturday. I'm sorry. Like it's going to
It
happen.
sucks. Yeah.
And nobody has a problem with that. We haven't had rain in 9 weeks and we're paving on Saturday.
Right.
That's where we miss it. But you were talking earlier about what you began to train when you were in the supervisory role. When we help create a frontline leadership program, about half of it is my stuff.
Mhm.
About half of it, and we're talking 6, 8 days of training here over, a couple of months. It could be planning, right? For sure. Hopefully they've learned that, but short interval scheduling. How did we create an estimate? One of the most fascinating classes because nobody knows how the estimate is created.
Right.
And, if you're talking, a dirt guy, for example, they've got ag tech and Google Earth and this and that. They've got $100,000 worth of software just to put the bid together. Right. So, and they're out there walking the job and they're flying it with drones. And the field guys are going, oh, you really didn't just throw a dart at a dartboard? Equipment utilization. Right? How much are you going to charge me for this D7 and why, et cetera? These are fascinating points, but they enable this frontline leader now to make better decisions
Yes.
and to explain to the team. So, yeah, the things there. So, I think there's a pyramid, not a pyramid, a triangle I talk about. I call the success triangle. At the base of the triangle is technical competence. You know how to pull wire, you know how to paint, you know how to dig, whatever that craft is. Like you have to have that foundational piece. Then we move into management, which is the planning, the organizing, those kinds of things, understanding the bid, et cetera. And then there's leadership,
Mm.
which arguably is generic, right?
2026 is right around the corner, and I want to help you make this year the year you finally put yourself first. How? With the Self First Framework. There's a full half day webinar that's going to give you the tools and the tactics to plan effectively, to finally make room for yourself in your schedule, and to execute daily so that you can dominate the day. I know 4 hours is a big commitment. So maybe you want a little more intel before you like go all in. And that's perfect because I got a sweet little webinar that you're invited to. There's a link down there in the show notes. Pick the date that works best for you. Sign up for the webinar and let's do the damn thing. Yeah.
How do you get along with people, et cetera? There's nuances within our industry about culture, the way people are and stuff like that. But you got to do all of those things. And what you talked about is you went through those three progressions. Like
Yep.
you were good, you got promoted, you suck. You were good, you got promoted, you suck, right? And you went through those progressions and you made it. And a lot of guys are doing it, but they haven't made it. And what I mean by that is life is brutal.
Yes.
And they go home and they don't see their kids, and it's already like even in the best weeks, there are long hours. So it doesn't have to suck. It's
Yeah.
gonna be hard, but it doesn't have to suck.
Yes, exactly right. It's like sprints or doing hills. Like
Oof.
it's gonna hurt, but it doesn't have to suck. Like
And it gets better.
it gets better. You got to put in the work. But I think, one of my, my whiny whines of today, and this is just more evidence of how hypocritical I am, Wally. I agree and believe to my heart that as a journeyman, whatever, doesn't matter what trade, part of your responsibilities as a journeyman is to develop apprentices, right? To teach them and train them and help them get better at the trade. Same thing
Yes.
as foreman, same thing as superintendent. I believe that, and that's the way I did my job. Now, here's my gripe. Companies do nothing to reinforce and appreciate that.
They
And
punish you.
so when a company has an individual that has that heart mindset or that leadership trait, they're lucky because and maybe the net's too broad. There are very few companies that have actually earned that leadership from their individuals. Most of them just expect it, but do nothing to nurture, develop it, and like propagate it. What do you think? Am I talking smack?
No, you're not. I remember talking to a guy who was a regional manager years back, and it's like every 18 months they were taking his project engineers away, to go be project managers elsewhere and regional
Yep.
manager. And, there was no bonus for that. I mean, it was just in his DNA, but it's almost like the company expected him to,
Yep.
develop that next project engineer, et cetera. Look, I think that if you're a leader, it's in your DNA. You make new leaders.
Yep.
If you're a journeyman, you make new journeymen, right? It's the same concept. It is interesting though how we all forget we were all knuckleheads once,
Yep.
right? Somebody helped you, somebody helped me. Now, it might have been behind the dumpster, right?
Yeah.
Or it might have been over coffee,
Mhm.
either one, but every single one of us had help along the way. And if listeners do one thing coming out of this call is right now, when I say it, who can you help? Somebody's name went through your mind,
Oh yeah.
right? Okay, that's your project. Lean in a little bit more, get to know them a little bit more. Maybe you know exactly what they need, right? And maybe they can start doing the daily huddle or something like that, whatever. But every single one of us got helped. And we go back to servant when we started this call, right? Who are you going to help? That's an easy takeaway.
Yeah, totally. And back to the selfish servant, like that gives me fulfillment, right? I have an interesting relationship between profits and fulfillment, quality of life. I'm an addict, right? And I will be, it's in my DNA, baby, period.
Yeah.
And when I started my business, like I set a revenue goal, a revenue target for the year. And I'm blessed because I blew that freaking thing out of the water within the first less than 6 months. It was like 4 months. And I'm like, whoa, I need to set a bigger target. So I set a bigger target and I blew that thing out of the water again. And then I was like, wait, okay, I'm an addict. If I keep just chasing these
More is better.
dollar goals, I'm on a slippery slope, right? Like I have a lot of things in place to keep me sober and on the contribution path. But I'm building me a slide down is what I was doing. And so I had to change my focus. Okay, what are the thing of the services that I provide? which one give me the most fulfillment? And then I said, okay, oh man, those are the least profitable. Well, come on, big boy. Like this is, if this is a goal, this is a goal. So I had to change it. So back to the selfish servant and this idea of profitability and quality of life. Like I have to focus on contribution and service so that I can stay alive.
Mhm.
If I focus on the other things, and I'll also add to that, right? Focusing on quality of life and serving others has produced enormous profit. I
Yeah.
don't have the same outcome if I flip the focus. Does that make sense, Wally?
No, it totally does. If I increase the capacity of my team, that makes my life easier,
Yes.
right? So when I teach somebody how to do a walk around or how to whatever, when I increase the capacity of my team, that makes my life better.
Yep.
So that meaning I don't have to micromanage. Maybe I can get out of work on time. One of the phrases I'll ask is, "What's going to cause somebody to take the bullet for you?"
Ooh, ooh, yeah.
Meaning, it's Friday afternoon. We're dirt guys. There's a tropical storm coming in, and Jose makes the decision to walk the job one more time to make sure erosion control is in place.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we're trying, and what does that do? That creates more smiley faces and more dollar signs, right? Because everyone kinda, good things are happening. So, I'm totally with you. So, it really selfish? No, I mean, we all win when we do it. And that's a growth mindset,
Yes.
right? It's not a deficit mindset of, "Oh, if I give to" you and I are competitors.
Yeah.
We do the exact same thing for the exact same people in a several trillion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
I am fairly confident I'm still gonna be able to put food on the table, though I have done this, right?
Yes.
So, and I think you're starting to see this in the industry, right? These top contractors in whatever trade,
Right.
in the dirt world, that the dirt world guys have done it with this Dirt World Summit and Aaron Witt and Build Witt. I
Yes.
mean, you're right, and you have, if you have competitors coming together, no collusion, none of that, but saying, "What are you doing on the people front? What do you do?" Like, the best thing I want is for you to be superior,
Yeah.
because what happens is somebody paid you and said it was worth it to bring in an outside person, and then maybe they'll bring me in or go to a different company or
Right.
whatever, right? If you suck, then by reputation, I suck, right?
Yep.
So this elevation of the industry is absolutely happening, and there's plenty of room for this.
Oh, absolutely. When I first started my little business, it's just me, right? It's just me kind
Right.
of tinkering. I was asking folks like, "Hey, do you have a proposal? Like, I don't know any, like, what do I need to know? Can you give me a template?" And there were a couple of people there were like, "Jess, you're just gonna have to figure it out." Like, they had this scarcity mindset,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I understand. Like, I get it. It's not the game I play. I get it. And the thing that goes through my head, even now when I'm working with companies, they're like, "Well, you can't. You got to keep this a secret." I'm like, what I will, but you're not doing anything dramatically different than anybody else, like proprietary, like from a perspective of proprietary value or intellectual property. It's like y'all are all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's your
Yeah.
people that
Well,
thinking.
Alabama, pretty good football team, right?
Yeah,
Everybody knew what Nick Saban was doing. Right? They could see the plays. They knew what he did from a culture perspective because he went out and lectured on it. They hired his assistants. They went and did it other places. There was there are no secrets there.
yeah,
There is a secret sauce, right? And that's, how does that all come together?
yes,
Now, I know my cynics are going to go out there and go, "Oh, they're not doing it anymore." Context changed.
yeah,
NIL changed everything, right?
yep.
So this, we talked about context earlier. So no, don't be a jerk and treat people with respect is not exactly proprietary. Well, how does that really come to, fore in your company if you have an owner who says it or an owner who believes it?
Yeah.
And that's very different.
Amen. Amen. 100%. And none of us can handle all the work if we got it anyways. Right? Let's just say that. Like for real, I couldn't, my systems are not set up to handle all of the work that is available. I don't want all the work.
Well, that gets into the thing our contractors get into. Well, I'm just going to hire more people. And then you lose contact with the customer and you lose quality. And that's a decision you get to make,
Yeah.
right? That's a choice you get to make. I have buddies who run multi-million dollar businesses and have 40 employees. Yeah, you know something? I like having, I'm going to use the word an intimate relationship
Mm,
with the owners or presidents that I work with. So, you know, that there's this deep level of trust where I could probably pick up the phone, you know, and there's your popular client, you know, the people you're working with right now,
right.
right? And call and go, hey, I got a question. I have a question of you.
Mhm.
And they're like, yeah, what's up, Wally? Well, I don't, sorry to bother you on Friday. You know what? It's like, don't worry about it, brother. It's
Like,
cool.
what's up? Yep.
You
Yep.
know, and, but those are the type of people we associate with.
Right.
Those are the type of people who want to get better. And I wasn't always that way. You weren't always that way, but you step into the light of this servant mentality, this growth mentality, and people are out there listening to me going, "You drank some Kool-Aid," you know, like woo woo. No, like whoa, yeah, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I've been in great cultures and I've been in crappy cultures.
Mhm.
Everybody out there has been in great cultures and crappy cultures. And now here's a reality check for some of our listeners. You're hostage to where you are. You're afraid to leave because now this the economy right now, maybe not a good time to leave, but right. If it sucks, there's a better place out there. There really is.
100%. 100%. From two perspectives. I know a lot of people that I want to be a senior PM. I want to be a senior. They want a promotion. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, be
that's
careful
easy.
what you ask for, by the way.
Right. Yeah. I was like, that's easy. Quit your job, go apply for another job and tell them you want the time. They'll give you the, like, they'll hire you. They need you.
And they'll give you more money too.
And
However,
yeah, exactly. Like, are you one, is it really what you want? Do you know what you're asking for? And two, it doesn't mean the same thing everywhere you go.
mhm.
Right? Senior PM, it don't matter. Like company to company, there are different expectations or different levels of performance. And the idea of getting that little promotion, that change in title, maybe there's something deeper that needs to be examined and understood before you go make a big giant mess of things because you haven't got the title that you want.
Well, and the culture at your current company, you know, may be superior,
Yep.
right? But you go over, I'll never forget, guy came up to me at World of Concrete a couple years back, you know, 400 people in the room. He comes up, hey, how you doing? I'm like, oh, Christ, here we go. He goes, yeah, you know, I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yep.
Because I'm talking about great culture. And he says, a couple of years ago, he says, a couple of years ago, I said, F the culture. I'm going for the money. I'm like, okay. How long did you stay? He goes, "Oh, 9 months. Couldn't take it. You couldn't pay me enough to be there."
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So it's the grass is always greener, but you still gotta mow the lawn or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Um, right? But it's really tough. So here we are saying, look, you can leave and go somewhere else. Yeah, but really take a good look. Now, if your world truly sucks, then yeah, you probably need to go. But if it's like, you know, I could make 10% more across the street. Yeah, but they don't respect you across the street. They think I had a guy say this to me once. He goes, "I don't know why people would wanna go there. We pay more."
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it was about Granite Rock, which back with TD, they were like the foundation members of the Great Culture Club in construction, documented from a great place to work perspective.
Right.
Great, plenty, right? But there was a competitor of Granite Rock saying, "Well, we pay more, we must be better." And it's like, "Oh no, I've seen their
No
P&L, buddy.
idea.
You ain't better." Yeah,
You have
yeah.
no idea. Yeah. Okay. So there's two more points I want to hit on before we get into the grand slam question. So you mentioned the dirt world, and from my perspective, it may just be straight up ignorance, my own ignorance. But I feel like the energy in the dirt world, like there's the summit. I don't know if it's their second or third year they've had it, but there just seems to be a volcano of energy and messaging and like freaking amazing leaders along with the summit and all of that. Did I just miss it before or did it just kind of hit the scene and like it's taking over?
It's a recent thing.
Hmm.
It really is what Aaron Witt has created over the last 7 years, I guess.
Yeah.
And, you have internet and vision and passion and borderline stupidity, in trying to create a movement. But so no, it is. And that's where I'm spending a lot of my time these days. But you're right. You go to the electrical world or the mechanical world or the GC world, whatever. And look, everyone's got their trade association, right? I mean, but it's that zero sum game of, well, if I get mine, you don't get yours, right? Or vice versa. And it's just a different mentality. Look, like so high schools, we're going to recruit out of high schools. Well, the industry figured that out about 5 years ago. And because not, and it's like, okay, cool. Well, something who has to get figured out now? Healthcare. Healthcare is in the high schools. You know who else figured it out? Tech
Oh,
is going to the high schools and saying, "You're a nerd. You don't need to go to college. You can come to work for me." So we're like, "Oh shit, we thought we found this great labor source." It's like we did, but notice I say we,
huh.
the construction industry is in a war for talent, not with the contractor next door,
Right.
but with the healthcare company where they get to work inside every day,
Yeah.
or the high tech company where they get to go nerdy stuff every day. Now, look, not everyone is built for each of those environments, but there's a story to be told. And we, as an industry, you remember got milk
Oh,
and
yeah.
beef? Like those industries pork, the other white meat, whatever,
Yep.
those industries figured it out.
Yeah.
And construction is too busy battling itself.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to see not just the messaging, because I have a heartache about the idea of marketing to trade, to bring more
Mm.
people into the industry when we treat them like crap when they get here,
Well,
right?
that's called bait and switch.
Right, like, that's it. I mean, generally speaking, it is absolutely a bait and switch situation.
Yeah.
There are pockets of, like, real amazing experiences, but they're small pockets. They're growing, but they're small. And so
Yeah.
it's not just a bait and switch of, "Hey, come work for my subcontractor out for my HVAC company." It's also the bait and switch of when you go work on a project and the GC is gonna treat you like crap too.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
we have systemic things that need to be fixed. The marketing, I agree. Now, with what I love in, like, watching what's going on over there with the in the dirt world is not just the marketing, like the production value. It's freaking amazing. Like, man, that's amazing. I would love to do that. And I know I'm not going to put in the effort to get that good.
Mm,
I'm good with my messy shit, like whatever.
yeah,
But I also, what I think I'm seeing is there's leaders that are associated with that movement that are also becoming more visible.
yeah,
And their people within their organizations are becoming more visible and more active. And I think that to me is what's special about what's happening in the dirt world that hasn't made its way through the other, we'll say, segments of the construction industry.
yeah, you're absolutely right. And look, I mean, there's enough electrical guys, there's enough mechanical
Sure.
guys to have a movement, right? Tile guys, maybe not, right? But fit
Right, right.
within that niche, right? And I love those guys. My brother did that for years. So yeah, it's almost like Prince, Beyonce, the people by one, LeBron.
Yeah.
Um, there are people within the dirt world that are becoming, you
Yes.
know, Aaron and Herb and Chad and
Oh,
Dan,
yeah.
and it's like, "Oh, you know them?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I had dinner with them last night." "Oh, you're so special." "No, I'm just a schmuck trying to help people get better."
Right.
It's like, "Yeah, whatever."
Yeah, yeah. No, you're right. Herb's one that stands out. That guy's amazing. I got to have a meal with them here in San Antonio. Okay. Now, you have been putting out an annual, I'm going to mess it up, but like an
Mm.
annual report based on some pretty significant, I'm going to call it research.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what can you tell the audience? Because I peeked it is like, okay, like there's some heavy stuff. And I love lately, I've seen your post kind of pulling chunks out of it or
yeah.
insights from what you've learned and gleaned over the years. What is that? So the L&M family knows that there's something out there that they can go seek their teeth into.
Yeah, it's the People in Construction Report,
Yep.
and I do it every other year. And it goes back to this conversation about expertise, right? About rather than just running my mouth, let's give some good data. So every other year, starting in 2019, and we just released a couple months ago, and it's data with which you can look at your organization.
Mm,
It's survey based and it's a little bit of focus group based. So once I get the data, I'll go talk to folks that have responded to it and go, all right, tell me a little bit more about this. Cause like any
nice.
survey, it only tells you so much.
Right.
Um, and it just talks about everything we've talked about.
Yeah.
It talks about the field. There's universal themes, the field office chasm, how do you bridge that?
Yep.
Um, Mental health is a new mega trend, that is out there over the last couple of years. So yeah, it's the People in Construction report, comes off the People Construction survey. You can go to wallyadamchick.com and get it. I don't
Nice.
firewall it. I don't ask you for your email. I'm too lazy. For
Yeah.
those of you, yeah, for those of you on LinkedIn, you can go right to my profile and it's right there. It's a red cover this year, People in Construction report, and it's pretty good data. And goes back to your question earlier about profitability and all that stuff. Like there are very few places where you can look at culture, profit, right? Because these are
Mhm.
all dependent variables. But I try to give as much data here so people can just kind of see some of those dependencies, because you're never going to be able to say Jesse did a program, we made more money. Like we're the piece of equipment. Oh, we got a bigger backhoe, we were able to move more dirt. Okay, I can show that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, People in Construction report, go get it, take a look at it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. It's super valuable. I like there's the correlation, right? Like if I got a backhoe with a bigger bucket, I'm going to move more yards. And
Yep.
that's a math question. The stuff that we do, in some cases, I'm like, yeah, there's a direct correlation. I can do the math and show it to you, but you gotta let me do that. So,
Yes, you measure turnover.
right.
One less guy left. Was that because of you? Because his wife had a baby? I don't like we,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
So
good.
it's a bit of a leap of faith on our stuff for sure.
10 4. Amazing. All right, Mr. Wally, you told us about your website. Actually, let me make sure. I'm sure folks out there listening, they're saying, man, I need some more of the Wally. So we're going to give them your LinkedIn, the profile link. We'll get the website in the thing so they can get the People in Construction report. But if they want like a super awesome, like baller that has massive expertise to come and help their company, do you have bandwidth for that?
A little
Should they
bit.
call you?
Well, first of all, a phone call is always zero, and it doesn't cost anything, right?
Right.
And it's just like another podcast, right? I mean, it's like let's share information, let's talk, and you never know, right? What makes sense and when makes sense. There's always a little bit of bandwidth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm learning, like you, not to put as much. My 2 Februarys ago, I worked. When I say worked, I mean stood in front of every single weekday, every single day, right? So 20, 5, 10, 15, 20 days. Like I made a lot of money. And
Yeah.
then Memorial Day weekend, I had a 102-degree fever for 48 hours.
Oh, geez. No way.
Yeah, so that's the body going,
That
not gonna let you
back
do
it off.
this anymore. But
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, like you said, if they want to know more, I mean, I post what 5, 6 times a week on LinkedIn. So
Yep.
you'll either love me or hate me after tracking me on LinkedIn for a little while. And then yeah, a DM and an email is fine.
Excellent. All right. Well, are you ready for the grand slam closing question, Mr.
I
Wally?
don't know, but I have to be.
You got to be. Here we go. And I imagine with the amount of interaction, the caliber of leaders that you've supported in developing themselves, and also the leader that you are, I'm really eager to hear your answer. So here's a question. What is the promise you are intended to be?
I A little bit of background. Couple months ago, I was driving from North Carolina, Raleigh to the coast, doing a
Mm,
speech out in New Bern. For those of you who don't know the eastern part of North Carolina, it's like driving through West Texas. I mean,
flat.
there's nothing, right? There's no gas stations. There's nothing. So there's about an hour of me going, I'm not done yet. Like I'm aging, but I'm not done yet.
Mm,
Why am I not done yet? Because I know more than I've ever known, and I'm humbler than I've ever been. So the promise is to be a better human being. And what does that mean? to put goodness out in the world so that it can be manifested further. My world narrowly happens to be job sites, but the person at the airport, man, I really try to be nice. I'm a jerk every day, to some degree. I mean, we're human, right?
Yeah.
But I think the promise is to put goodness out there because, man, we need a lot more of that these days.
Oh man, I love it. And that that t-shirt quote, I'm older and I'm humbler. I know more and I'm humbler. Like,
Yeah.
holy moly, like that's facts, baby. Oh, Mr. Wally, thank you, sir. Did you have fun?
Yes. Oh, I mean, you know me, I speak for a living, right? So you let me just run my mouth. I mean, let's keep going.
I know it. I know. I like to say this. So the teachers that told me that I would never amount to anything because I talk too much. Now I'm like, how you like me now?
But, no, I loved it. And you and I could go on all day, but the real message to the listeners is all of this is possible, right? Not all of it once, but all of it is possible. Like who you and I are today was unenvisioned a couple years back, for me 20 something years back, right?
Right.
So, fear, self-serving, whatever, goodness is possible. Growth is possible. The fact that you're listening to this is nice. Take something and do something with it. That'll be better.
Thank you for sticking it out all the way to the end. I know you got a whole lot of stuff going on. And in appreciation for the gift of time that you have given this episode, I want to offer you a free PDF of my book, Becoming the Promise You're Intended to Be. The link for that bad boy is down in the show notes. Hit it. You don't even have to give me your email address. There's a link in there. You just click that button and you can download the PDF. And if you share it with somebody that you know who might feel stuck or be caught up in self-destructive behaviors, that would be the ultimate. You sharing that increases the likelihood that it's going to help one more person. And if it does help one more person, then you're contributing to me becoming the promise I am intended to be. Be kind to yourself, be cool, and we'll talk at you next time.